If you woke up 300,000 years ago tonight, would you make it to sunrise? Hold that question as the only clock that matters, the one that ticks between the first breath of darkness and the first strip of color on the horizon. This is the Middle Pleistocene, a world of swing and whiplash, where cold wins the poles and warmth still rules the belt around the equator. The night you step into isn't a fantasy. It's a system. It has inputs, outputs, and penalties for sloppy decisions. Start with the air. Cooler than you expect. Dry enough that every exhale shows. Wind moves across open grass and snaps low through thorn. It carries information. Damp loam from a watercourse, musk from a herd that passed at dusk, smoke from someone else's fire, human or lightning-born. You don't have a map, but you do have signal. Tonight those signals are your GPS. Look north. Ice has a vote in this world. Not a permanent freeze, but tongues of glaciation that carved, pooled, and withdrew over time. Far from those teeth of ice, the land you're standing on stretches wide. Savanna broken by acacia, pockets of woodland, fingers of wetland. The sky is so clean it shows depth, a dense scatter of stars, a smear of the Milky Way, a hard silver moon that turns grass to blades. Beautiful, yes, also bright enough for the wrong eyes to find you. Your frame of reference is a band, 25, maybe 30 people, on the lee side of a low rise where wind thins and sound carries. The fire is small on purpose. Flame means heat, light, cooked food, and signaling. It also means visible. The person feeding it knows the materials. Dry twig for ignition, finger-thick sticks for body, a slow, dense limb for a long coal bed. The goal isn't bonfire glory. It's a steady pulse that won't die if a gust hits. Inventory the night's problem set. Predators first. Lions will not announce unless they want you to hear. Hyenas probe lines. Read confidence and look for patterns that fail. Leopards are a single shadow and then wait. Crocodiles exist wherever water and night intersect. Second tier, snakes, scorpions, thorn. Third tier, weather. Wind shifts that carry scent. A sudden rush of cold that means the front edge of a storm. Lightning that can reset the whole board. Countermeasures are old and precise. Thorn branches ring the sleeping side of camp. Not perfect, but enough friction to buy a second heartbeat to shout, grab a spear, kick a log. Sleep is organized. No one pretends the night is safe enough for everyone to drift. Two watchers trade short shifts, backs warmed by the fire, eyes set past the light, not into it. They don't talk much. They listen. Tall grass has a sound. Feet through sand have a sound. Hyena laughter is data. Silence after laughter is also data. Food decisions were made before you arrived in the dark. The band does not push a major hunt at night, not unless hunger has crossed a line. Daylight hunting solves for vision, coordination, and retrieval. Night is for protection, resource conversion, and repair. Tubers collected in the afternoon sit on hot stones under ash, slow baking. Bones from yesterday's kill warm at the edge, ready for marrow. A few strip-thin cuts of meat sear quick to minimize scent. The fire carries smoke up and away, thanks to where the camp sits relative to slope and wind. That was not poetry. It was planning. Tools are the quiet heroes of this scene. A hand axe rides between a person's belt and palm like it grew there. It does everything. Split hide, shave a spear shaft, pry a root, butcher small game. Beside it, flake blades, thin and wicked, live in a leather pouch. A spear leans within one step of every sleeper, haft smooth where hands found the hold over months of use. Some spear points are lashed with sinew and plant resin. Some are hardened wood, redundant systems, because failure loves single points. The band's edge is shared knowledge. They don't carry libraries. They are one. An elder marks a route to water from memory. 3 dry gullies, a break in the ridgeline, a fig grove whose roots mean a seep nearby. A younger hunter knows the sound of zebra hooves on hardpan versus the slap of a buffalo's broad foot. A gatherer distinguishes 2 near-identical leaves, one food, one mistake. The night is a test of whether all those separate competencies align under pressure. Predator math starts before any eyes flash in the dark. The band sleeps in a shallow arc, open to the fire, closed to the wind. Children and injured inboard, healthiest bodies at the perimeter. Watchers on the windward edge where scent arrives first. The thorn ring funnels approach into a narrow angle. If something decides to press, it will press there, and the spears are already measured for that distance. Confidence isn't bravado. It's throughput. Does your configuration turn a seconds-long event into survival? Overhead, the sky is a clock. Stars rise and tilt. The watchers don't name constellations, but they know the shift. When the Pleiades clear the angle of the acacia, a change of guard. When the moon hits the notch in the ridge, the fire must be rolled to a new log. When false dawn lifts the far horizon by a hair, someone moves to check traps near the nearby channel, while shadow still covers their approach. This world's economy is brutally simple. Energy in must exceed energy out, with a margin for error. Tonight's margin is built from choices earlier. Carrying embers when moving camp so you don't waste hours restarting. Choosing a camp with drainage so a surprise storm doesn't drown the fire. Caching dry fuel under rock. Placing sleeping hides on raised ground to avoid cold sink. Each decision looks trivial until it stacks. The stack is survival. This isn't a romance of danger. It's a manual disguised as a night. Scan the grass line. A breeze runs left to right. Good, it pulls human scent away from the dark hollow where you think you heard movement. A watcher flips a small coal with a stick to build a whisper of flame on new kindling. Not enough to flare, just enough to reassert the message. Occupied. Alert. Another hand tightens a fiber binding on a spear point, not because it's loose, but because you don't check it after you need it. Beyond the band, the wider planet breathes in large cycles. Ice advances and retreats over tens of thousands of years. Forests trade borders with grasslands. Rivers migrate. The band doesn't chart this in books. They absorb it in routes that shift by season and year. Tonight's water is in this channel. Next year's might be in the parallel cut a kilometer east. The knowledge is a living file system, updated with each trek, merged when two bands meet and trade both goods and waypoints. There's a temptation to make the night about courage. It isn't. It's about discipline. No one stands to give speeches. No one promises the dark will behave. The band lives inside a compact. If you keep your piece of the protocol, I'll keep mine. The protocol covers small things. Don't toss fat into flame. It pops and smells, and big things. Don't chase a hyena into grass at night. The compact holds because the failure cases are public and fast. You want a lesson you can use on the far side of this night? Treat environment as opponent and teacher at once. Read it without projection. Answer it with preparation you can carry and skills you can share. Accept that some variables won't budge. Wind, topography, predator hunger, and route around them rather than through them. Dawn is coming. You can feel the temperature lift by a degree. Hear the first birds cut the silence. The fire is low, more red than orange. The watcher's eyes are grainy but clear. No one cheers. The night did not grant mercy. It demanded competence and got it. Before sun breaches, the band will split tasks. Water check, trap line, fuel sweep, quick scan for tracks around camp to audit the perimeter. Night ends, but the system persists. If you woke up here, would you make it to sunrise? With a band who treats the world as data, tools as extensions, and trust as policy, you might. Without that, the night is a final exam you're not ready to take. Keep the ember small, the eyes out, the plan live. The first light isn't safety. It's just the next scenario. You don't need parchment to have a map. You need senses trained until they turn landscape into sentences. Out here, cartography starts under your feet. The ground keeps minutes. A hoofprint cupped with a rim of damp says passed at dusk. A dry crumbled edge means hours ago, move on. Even the wind narrates. Stand still. Let it speak. Warm animal, wet air in your face. You're downwind of something with lungs and size. A sudden switch, cool and clean. The field just flipped. Your scent will now ride forward. That's not trivia. That's whether you approach or circle. Begin with grass. Savannah grass is a loud book. Her flattened lane where blades lie in one direction is not trampled. It's a corridor, herd to water. Crosslays where stems tangle and spring back tell you a chase happened. Predator push, prey break. A thin thread of bent tips at ankle height marks smaller traffic, warthog or jackal. Drop to a knee, feel the stock. If it's still cool from shade beneath, whoever bent it did so recently. Heat and dryness erase notes. Shade preserves them, now soil. Hardpan writes in pressure and polish. Sandy loam writes in edges and spill. A buffalo track is a blunt, deep oval with splayed margins. Zebra prints are narrower, sharper crescents. Gazelle are half-moons you can cover with your palm. Take one finger and draw a line from heel to toe of the imprint. If that groove keeps a bead of moisture, the animal passed before the sun pulled water from the surface. Stack enough of these reeds and you're walking beside ghosts that only just left. Dung is a clock you can smell. Fresh zebra pellets are shiny and warm, the sheen fading within the hour. Buffalo patties crust first on the top skin. Crack them. Steam and sweet sour means minutes, not days. Hyena scat is pale with bone and rank, in a way that stings the nose. Track its clusters to find den areas you will not visit carelessly. Even seed content is a clue. Ripe fig seeds inside herbivore dung say the grove ahead is in season. That's a root decision. Fruit today versus tuber tomorrow. Water is not over there. Water is a chain of signals that start far up valley. Watch birds. Sandgrouse fly low and straight at dawn, beaks pointed like compass needles toward known pans. Weaver flocks bunch and jitter along reed margins. If you hear the layered chatter before you see green, you're close. Reeds themselves telegraph presence from a distance, the way they shift in a different rhythm than grass when wind passes. In dry months, don't look for surface shine. Look for vegetation patterns, dark, dense patches in an otherwise brittle canvas. Then dig the old channels. Press sand until it cools your palm. That's where you scoop. Line the hollow with grass. Let seepage collect, sip without stirring mud. Trees are landmarks and pantries both. Acacia with forking. Low limbs mark edges of browse lanes. Ungulates favor the thorny buffet. Fig trees anchor soil and water. Their buttress roots often hide a slow seep or, at minimum, cooler ground where insects congregate, which means amphibians, which means a quick protein grab if tools are ready. Baobab silhouettes can be seen from absurd distances. Fix one on the horizon, and you have a bearing that won't shift with the sway of grass. Elevation is your unspoken friend. Climb small. 10 meters up, a knoll turns chaos into pattern. From there you read herd density by movement shimmer, not individuals. You also see wind messages, dust banners running with invisible rivers. Ridges give line of sight but steal sound. The breeze strips faint hints you'd catch lower. Valleys amplify footfalls and mute wind noise. Decide where your ears do best for the question you're asking. If you're seeking predators, listen from the lee of a rise where air slows and carries whispers. If you're tracking skittish antelope, go high and watch for tail flick punctuations along the grassline. Edges are event factories. Where forest kisses grass, everything hunts, hides, or eats. Walk the ecotone with care. Shade holds moisture. Moisture holds prints. Prints hold time. Overhanging branches scratch backs. Hair gets left there. Collect a few strands and twine them, coarse and dark. Likely buffalo. Finer and tan? Antelope. The hairs themselves hold scent. Rub between fingers, decide how fresh the pass was, whether to follow or to divert. Wind is not just direction. It's geometry. Imagine a cone pouring from you downwind. That cone is danger to your approach and safety to your retreat. When circling toward water or a herd, keep your cone off the objective. If the wind shifts, and it will, don't force the angle. Rebuild the approach. 1 extra kilometer walked beats 1 night of trouble. Watch how small birds react to your scent line. Sudden silence after your passage means you dragged the cone across them. Use their behavior as a live meter. Reading predators is its own language. Lion tracks run wide and heavy, with blunt, clawless pads and a confidence you can feel in stride spacing. Leopard steps are smaller, often hugging cover. Look for doubled prints where it paused, then crept. Hyenas scribble in teams, multiple overlapping ovals, curved like commas, clustered near scavenging lanes. Vultures right above. Tight circles high are thermal riding. Sudden drop and scramble mean meat. Don't be the late reader of that sentence. Night leaves sign for morning audits. Before the band moves, sweep the camp's perimeter. Ash displaced outward at one segment of your thorn ring. Snout push from outside. A fan of disturbed dust near a spear rest? Someone stood quickly there. Note whose shift that was, ask why. This is not blame. It's continuity. The landscape graded your night. You read the exam. Routes are living code branches. You don't memorize one path. You keep a bundle that forks with rain, herd movement, and neighboring bands. A dry riverbed route is fast travel. Until it isn't. Clouds pile inland. Expect a flash swell. Not here, but 3 bends ahead where 2 feeders meet. The safe branch climbs to the shoulder, adds time, saves lives. Mark these choices in your memory with images that don't fade. The termite mound that looks like a sitting hippo. The dead acacia with 3 claws. Everyone can recall those, even the young. Plants talk if you let them. Silver underside leaves flutter more in light winds, visible from range. That tells you where breezes collect, and where insects do and where birds feed. Broad waxy leaves usually mean water retention. Dig near their base in dry months. Milksap warns you twice, bitter and sticky. If it peels threads when pulled, don't eat. Flowers are phenology notes. When the yellow bells open after the first long rain, termites will swarm at dusk 2 nights later. High-protein windfall if you've prepared baskets or pits. Sound travels in layers. At dawn, insects fade and birds ramp. At noon, heat flattens everything. At dusk, mammal feet begin writing on the drum again. Learn the baseline for each hour, and let anomaly draw your eye. A single rock click in an otherwise softscape is not random. Hoof on stone, a whisper of flowing sand when no wind moves. Something large just shifted weight. Even failure informs. Lose a track? Don't grind forward and widen error. Backtrack to last clean sign and spiral out in tidy loops. Left, forward, right, back. Drawing a human fingerprint on the ground until the animal's fingerprint intersects it. Mark your loops with small twig arrows. If someone else arrives, they read your method and extend, not overwrite. Mapping is also manners. When 2 bands meet, exchange maps without paper. You hand a flint flake shaped like the notch in the ridge near the fig grove. They pass a braided cord with 3 knots for 3 sleeps to the next reliable pan. Add a gesture, hand slicing low to show flood, palm wagging to show hyena density. That's an atlas across miles, woven from objects, shapes and signs. Later, when your group reaches a fork, the flakes angle in your palm lines with the land's angle, and suddenly the way is obvious. Some signs are lies. Wind erases predator smell faster than hoof stink. Rains draft fresh tracks over old with deceptive crispness. Herds sometimes double back under pressure and print over their own trail to confuse. Build a habit of cross-checking 2 independent signals before committing. Print freshness plus dung temperature. Bird behavior plus wind direction. Vegetation pattern plus soil moisture. 1 signal is a hunch, 2 is a decision. Finally, remember the humility clause. The land tells the truth. Your brain loves stories. When a clue contradicts your expectation, side with the clue. Out here, being right feels quiet. It sounds like nothing happening. No surprised snort close by, no sudden scatter of birds, no run of feet you didn't plan. It ends with you arriving at water ahead of thirst, at fruit before spoil, at shelter before storm. That's the reward for a map nobody can steal. A mind tuned to read what the world writes in real time under any sky. A stone in the hand is just weight, until someone sees an edge hiding inside it. Out here, technology begins not with fire or shelters, but with a flake struck at the right angle. The band doesn't name it technology. They don't name it at all. But every sharp cut, every hafted spear, every smoothed handle is a survival algorithm, carried in wrists and memory. Start with the hand axe. It looks simple, teardrop, palm-sized, sharp all around. But it's a Swiss Army knife without springs. One face cleaves through hide, another scrapes marrow, the tip digs into tuber beds. The geometry matters. Thin edges slice, thick edges pry. The balance lets you switch mid-task without setting it down. No waste, no ornament, only maximum function per gram. When one chip's dull, you rework it. Stone doesn't forgive. It renews. Beside it lives the flake. Not glamorous, not durable, but razor sharp. A single strike from a core sends off a shard so thin it glints. These are knives, scalpels, short-lived but indispensable. A gatherer uses them to shave bark for cordage. A hunter uses them to open arteries clean. They're disposable, but in a world with no steel, disposability is a form of abundance. Then the leap, hafting. Take wood, sinew and resin, bind stone to shaft. Now a blade doesn't live in your palm. It extends your reach. Say a spear becomes more than a stick hardened in flame. It becomes puncture and penetration at distance. Resin harvested sticky from trees and hardened in heat acts like glue. Sinew stripped from an animal's tendon dries into a cord stronger than its size suggests. Wrap, bind, set near coals, and suddenly the tool resists sheer torque impact. Engineering without equations, but every tool carries trade-offs. A spear with a stone tip kills better, but it breaks easier. Do you risk losing your only point in a buffalo's hide? That's why redundancy lives in the toolkit. Some spears tipped, some hardened wood, some just for throwing to harry and confuse. Options keep bands alive. Over-specialization kills. Toolcraft is not just about making things, It's about passing the know-how forward. The young watch the strike pattern of elders. Angle, force, rebound. Miss too shallow and the stone glances. Strike too hard and the core shatters into useless gravel. Precision comes from hours of failure. Every scarred knuckle in camp testifies to someone learning. You don't invent the hand axe each generation, you inherit the angle. And the environment dictates inventory. River valleys mean smooth cobbles, good for flakes but not long for edges. Uplands offer fine-grained chert or obsidian, glass-like, brittle, surgical. Carrying stone across kilometers is weight. So bands cached cores at known waypoints, stockpiles ready for future passes. The map of stone sits inside the map of land. Tools also blur into weapons. That same scraper that preps hide can, in a heartbeat, cut a foe's hand. A digging stick that unearths roots can crack a skull. Dual use isn't a luxury, it's efficiency. Every item must earn its place on the march. Fire partners with tools. Place a flake on a dried stalk, angle it just so, and the cut reveals fibrous cord. Twist fibers into rope. Rope lashes stone to wood. Without rope, the spear is just wish. With rope, it's leverage, range, insurance. Tool ecology is circular. Each unlocks the next. Maintenance is survival. After a hunt, spears are inspected, bindings re-wetted, shafts smoothed. Hand axes get resharpened. Even in scarcity, time is spent not just on food but on tool upkeep. Because failure in the field costs more than hours by the fire. A snapped spear in a charge means a broken rib, a lost hunter, a weaker band. Prevention outweighs cure, and tools shape strategy. With spears, distance fighting becomes viable. With flakes, small game butchery is efficient. Without them, your teeth and nails against a biome full of better teeth and harder claws. Tools aren't bonus, they're baseline. They tilt the equation from prey to predator, from scavenger to hunter, from surviving to planning, but don't romanticize. These aren't trophies. They're practical, sometimes crude, often ugly. A core with scars all over still throws one last usable flake. A hand axe chipped crooked still cuts. Nothing wasted. Form follows survival, not aesthetics. The beauty is in the hand that knows how to wield, not the stone itself. If you held one, you'd feel it. The weight, the balance, the simplicity. Nothing to turn on, no moving parts, no failure modes except your own ignorance. But that simple edge, passed from palm to palm, made the difference between marrow in the belly and an empty night. Technology begins here, with edgecraft. With people seeing possibility in rock, with risk turned into advantage through patience and iteration, with knowledge stored not in clay tablets or books but in wrists, eyes, scars. This is not the story of tools. It's the story of minds that refuse to stop at bare hands. Because once you master edge, you master leverage. And once you master leverage, the world tilts just enough that the night isn't always against you. Tools don't guarantee survival, but without them survival isn't even on the table. And tomorrow, when hunger presses again, these tools will write the next chapter. Food. But before food, there must be edge. Always edge. Survival isn't an abstract. It's calories in, calories out, with a margin for error. Every night's fire, every dawn's march, every watch posted against predators, none of it matters if bellies are empty. Food is the engine that powers vigilance, movement, and thought. Out here, hunger isn't an inconvenience. It's the background hum of existence. Winning the hunger game isn't a single hunt. It's a constant balancing act between risk, timing, and cooperation. Start with the hunt. Big game is the jackpot, but jackpots don't pay daily. Buffalo, zebra, or antelope take coordination, stamina, and sometimes luck. The band doesn't sprint blindly into herds. They plan with terrain. Ravines funnel animals. Narrow channels act as choke points. Grass set a light downwind pushes herds where spears already wait. The strategy is geometry plus patience. Spears aren't thrown until the moment geometry guarantees one target is isolated. One clean kill outweighs 10 panicked charges, but hunting is a spectrum. Small game, hares, porcupines, birds, fill gaps more reliably than massive prey. Traps do the work while hunters rest. A simple bent sapling snare, a pit near a burrow, a net woven from corded grass, all turn low effort into protein. Fishing too is a quiet backbone. Spears tipped for thrusting in shallow pools, woven baskets set at narrowing streams, even bare hands in muddy shallows. Fish lack the drama of a charging buffalo, but keep children alive when hunts fail, and never underestimate scavenging. The savannah doesn't care who kills first. Lions strike, eat, then leave. Hyenas shred leftovers. Vultures descend, but if a band arrives early enough, coordinated enough, they can chase scavengers off and take the marrow, the hide, the scraps. Marrow itself is high-octane fuel. A split femur yields fat and nutrient density equal to a day's tubers. The risk is clear. Predators may not have finished. To step into another predator's kill zone is a gamble. The reward is food without the chase. Gathering balances the equation. Tubers dug from dry beds, figs plucked in clusters, seeds winnowed from tall grasses. Gathering follows calendars in heads, not on paper. Everyone knows which grove ripens after rains, which bulbs store water underground during drought. This memory is wealth. Children learn early to distinguish bitter leaf from edible, toxic tuber from safe. One mistake in gathering can mean vomiting, paralysis, death. Knowledge is the antidote, and it's shared as carefully as fire. Cooking multiplies food. Raw tubers are tough, hard to digest. Roasted, they soften, yield energy, and store longer. Meat cooked over flame kills parasites, extends edibility by hours, sometimes days. Smoke acts as preservation. Fire transforms not just taste, but safety and efficiency. A child can chew roasted roots. The elderly can eat softened marrow. Fire is democratizer as much as defender. Yet every meal is social math. Who eats first? Who gets the choicest cuts? In most bands, the hunter who strikes the killing blow doesn't hoard. They redistribute. A buffalo's liver might go to elders who need the iron, marrow shared widely, hide stripped for shelter. Food is glue. Hoarding fractures bands. Sharing builds the trust that guarantees tomorrow's hunt has enough hunters left to attempt. The hunger game is also timing. Hunt too often, and you burn more calories than you earn. Wait too long, and weakness undermines the next attempt. Successful bands know the rhythm. Alternate big game risk with small game certainty. Balance gathering steady yield with hunting's high reward. The rhythm flexes with season, herd migration and weather shocks. In wet months, fruit fills baskets and hunting is lighter. In dry months, roots and traps keep people alive until herds drift back. Predators are part of the food equation too. Kill an antelope, and within an hour lions may catch the scent. The band has to process fast. Strip flesh, crack bones, carry chunks away. Sometimes they leave portions behind as payment to the scavengers that shadow them. Sometimes they defend with firebrands and spears. But lingering over a kill is death. Efficiency is survival. Food is also story. Around the fire, children hear not just where food was found, but how. The zebra fell near the stone that looks like a lion. The tubers grew fat under the fig roots after last season's rain. These stories encode maps, seasons, and strategies into memory. They're entertainment, yes, but also instruction. Next year, when a child turns hunter or gatherer, those stories guide their steps before hunger sharpens them. Failure is always one wrong choice away. Chase buffalo without reading wind, and you scatter the herd for weeks. Eat the wrong route in desperation, and the band loses a body. Miss the timing of figs by a week, and fruit bats beat you to them. Hunger punishes not just lack of effort, but lack of accuracy. Precision in food is as vital as precision in spear work, and always food links back to fire. Imagine the circle. Hunters return with meat, gatherers with roots, children with berries. Fire softens, sterilizes, unites. Eating is not scattered. It's shared. Everyone sees what's brought, who contributed, how it's divided. This transparency builds accountability. A child who brought only a handful of berries is still praised. They participated. A hunter who risked and failed is still fed. Next time they may succeed. Food is the daily referendum on trust. Winning the hunger game isn't about full stomachs. Stomachs are rarely full. It's about enough. Enough energy to march, enough fat to store, enough sharing to bind the group. Enough to wake tomorrow and try again. Hunger sharpens the edges of every decision, but it also sharpens ingenuity. Traps, spears, cooking stories all bloom from the pressure of empty bellies. In this world, calories equal survival, and survival shared equals continuity. Out here, food isn't just fuel, it's the heartbeat of the band. Out here, a lone human is already half dead. Teeth too dull, claws too short, hide too thin. One body is not enough to hold off predators or to fill a fire circle with food. Survival is never solo. The band is the first real tool, sharper than flint, tougher than sinew, more enduring than fire. 20 to 30 people, bound not by law or throne, but by necessity. Picture the layout. A rough arc around the fire, elders near warmth, children nested between them, hunters sprawled at the perimeter, watchers awake at the edges. It isn't random. It's a system of protection, care, and efficiency. Everyone carries weight, and the shape of that weight changes with age, strength, and circumstance. Roles are fluid. One day, a skilled hunter limps from a sprained ankle, so someone else takes the lead. Another day, a gatherer stumbles upon a honey hive and returns with calories richer than meat. Strength here isn't a permanent badge. It's situational, and the band flexes around it. What matters is not one person's ability, but the group's ability to reassign, redistribute, recover. Care is currency. A broken arm doesn't exile someone. The band slows its pace, shares food, adjusts tasks. Why? Because a year later, that same arm healed will throw spears again. Short-term investment becomes long-term security. This isn't sentiment. It's calculation in human form. Compassion is math that pays dividends. Children are both cost and insurance. They eat without contributing much for years, yet every laugh and every question is a rehearsal for survival. Elders pour memory into them. Which grove ripens when, which trail leads to water, which root cures a fever. A child absorbs a living library, while being shielded from immediate risk. The payoff comes later, when the next drought hits and someone recalls the elder's story about digging deeper in the dry channel. Conflict happens. Of course it does. Meat division sparks disputes, jealousy flares, tempers boil. But the band carries unwritten rules to cool these fires. Choice cuts are often given to elders or shared widely. Hunters do not hoard because hoarding fractures trust. Disputes might be settled by symbolic gestures, giving a tool, offering a portion, walking away for a night. No one wins outright, because a permanent fracture weakens everyone. The band doesn't need perfect harmony. It needs continuity. Laughter is another tool, lighter than spears, but just as sharp. Around the fire, jokes deflate tension. Stories reshape mistakes into lessons. Rhythm in voice and body binds everyone into one pulse. Laughter signals safety. Predators don't laugh, prey doesn't laugh. Only humans can afford it, and even then only in the shelter of trust. Danger tests cohesion. When a lion stalks close, it's not one hunter versus one predator. It's a line of bodies, spears angled, firebrands ready. No one stands without the assurance that others will stand too. That assurance is built in the dozens of small choices, sharing marrow, mending cord, taking your turn on watch. Trust isn't abstract. It's proven in repetition until no one doubts the next moment's reaction. Food distribution encodes the same principle. Even the hunter who failed gets fed, because hunger weakens tomorrow's hunt. The gatherer who found only a handful of berries still eats, because the effort proves commitment. Equity isn't idealism, it's survival insurance. A starving member is a liability. A fed member is potential. Elders are not carried along out of sentimentality. They are walking hard drives. They hold flood memories, migration patterns, predator behavior, plant lore. When a storm hits and the sky looks wrong, an elder recalls, "This smell means the river will swell by morning." That knowledge saves lives. A strong arm throws once. A strong memory saves the whole band across seasons. Even in grief, the band functions as system. A death is not just loss of labor. It's risk of despair, collapse, paralysis. Rituals, however simple, covering the body, marking with ochre, singing low, are not decorations. They are resilience protocols, transforming grief into cohesion. By mourning together, the band prevents fracture. Trust also extends beyond one band. Encounters with neighbors can mean conflict or exchange. Trade happens, stone from far away, shells from a coast, pigments, mates. These exchanges stitch wider networks, but only bands strong within themselves can afford to reach outward. Weak, fractured groups dissolve before they can connect, and always trust is tested by scarcity. In drought, when food thins, does the band fracture into hoarding and suspicion, or double down on redistribution? Groups that break here vanish from memory. Groups that hold together pass memory forward. Every modern life descends from the ones who held. Look at the fire circle again. Children laughing with sticky berry juice, elders murmuring maps, hunters sharpening points, gatherers twisting cord. No contracts, no kings, no borders, just the living algorithm of trust. It is the first tool, invisible yet indispensable, because out here selfish is slow, and slow is dead. The ground beneath the band isn't fixed. It's alive, shifting, testing. Seasons here don't just change the backdrop. They rewrite the rules of survival. Rain fills rivers, paints the land green, calls herds into motion. Dry winds strip the same plains bare, drive animals away and turn every decision into triage. The band doesn't resist the shifts. It learns to ride them, like sailors on a sea that never stays calm. When the rains come, the world feels generous. Grass shoots up waist-high, trees swell with fruit, rivers braid across the valleys. Food multiplies, but so does danger. Herds gather in dense numbers and predators follow. Swollen streams that offered fish yesterday can sweep a child away today. The wet season means plenty, but also power, raw, shifting, unpredictable. A band must position itself near resources without being trapped by them. Camps rise on higher ground, away from sudden floods, with drainage cut around the fire ring. Dry season reverses the script. Rivers shrink to threads, then to pools, then to dust. Grass yellows, trees thin, game scatters. Now memory is lifeline. Elders recall hidden seeps, tubers that store water deep underground, roots to distant pans that still hold liquid. Digging becomes a daily act. Hands, sticks, tools, all scraping sand for a trickle of moisture. Fire becomes harder to sustain as fuel grows scarce, so embers are carried in husks, cradled like infants. One ember means the difference between cooking and raw, warmth and cold, deterrence and vulnerability. Weather shocks don't wait for calendars. A sudden storm can shred shelters, drown low camps, scatter fuel. A drought year can stretch dry season into dry half-year, pushing bands into unfamiliar territories and tense encounters with neighbors. Volcanic ash can settle over valleys, smother plants, choke streams, and force migration. None of these are hypotheticals. They happen, and bands either pivot or vanish. Adaptability isn't a trait. It's a law. Decision-making under these shocks is constant. When a storm cloud builds black on the horizon, the band must weigh stay in camp and risk flood, or move at dusk and risk predators. When drought pinches food, do they double down on tubers, or risk a long trek toward a riverbed remembered from seasons ago? These are not abstract gambles. They are survival algorithms tested in real time. Seasonal knowledge is stored in patterns. Birds arrive before rains. Insects hatch when soil warms. Certain trees flower only after reliable water returns. Observing these cues is the difference between starving while waiting for herds to return and moving early to meet them on new grazing grounds. The band reads the signs like a calendar without numbers, updated each year with error and correction. Storms are both enemy and ally. Lightning can destroy, but it can also spark fire that bands capture and preserve. Rain can flood, but it also refreshes tubers and fills hidden cisterns. A storm's aftermath is harvest time. Carcasses drowned in sudden floods, fresh shoots for grazing, fish stranded in shrinking pools. The band doesn't just endure shocks. It scavenges opportunity from them. Brush fires sweep savannas in dry months, fast and hot. To be caught in one is death, but to follow after is bounty. Fresh ash feeds new shoots. New shoots draw grazers, grazers draw hunters. Bands learn to read fire scars, to time return, to walk the line between disaster and abundance. Some even set controlled burns, small blazes in contained spaces, to clear land, flush animals, and refresh growth. Fire becomes both weapon and renewal. Flexibility isn't only about movement, it's about storage. In good months, the band gathers more than it eats. Caches roots in pits, dries meat by smoke, saves marrow in bones sealed with clay. These reserves are lifeboats in lean months. They're rarely enough to carry a band through a long drought, but they buy time, and time buys options. Migration is the final tool. When the land tips too far against them, the band moves. Packs are loaded, embers carried, routes chosen. They follow game trails, watercourses, seasonal winds. Movement is risk. Unknown terrain, rival bands, predators, but staying in a dead land is worse. Every migration is a gamble with geography, but also a lesson. Bands that survive add new routes to their collective map, passing them on for generations. The moving floor teaches one truth: permanence is illusion. Nothing stays. Water shifts, grass grows and dies, storms tear and pass, predators roam. The only constant is the band's ability to adapt, to read, to change before change crushes them. Survival isn't strength against nature, it's flexibility with nature. Imagine standing with the band at the edge of a dry channel. The sun is high, the ground cracked. A child cries for water. An elder kneels, presses their hand into sand, waits, then nods. Dig here. The group digs, shallow at first, then deeper, until mud seeps and darkens. They scoop, they sip, they live another day. That act, reading the land, trusting memory, adapting, summarizes the whole law of existence here. The floor is always moving. Those who try to plant themselves in certainty fall through. Those who walk with the movement, who listen, who flex, who pivot, they ride it. They last. And tomorrow, when the rains come or the drought drags on, the test will be issued again. Pass or fail, adjust or vanish. A band can track, hunt, gather, and adapt. But survival isn't only about the body. It's about minds linking together. Faster, clearer, deeper. Signals and story are the hidden scaffolding of the band. They don't carve law tablets or write scriptures. They make meaning in gestures, marks, rhythm, and memory. Meaning is not decoration here, it's strategy. Start with signals. Voices carry, but words are few and often swallowed by wind. Instead, hands do the work. A quick palm flash across the chest halts a hunting line. A two-finger point directs eyes to a trail. The clenched fist lifted means freeze. The predator is too close to risk noise. These gestures are shared language, not taught by grammar but by repetition. Children copy until they can read silence as clearly as speech. Sounds exist too, but stripped down to essentials. A sharp click of the tongue to mimic hoofbeats, used to draw attention. A low hum rising to warn of gathering. Laughter punctuates safety. Even shouts are not random. They are signals in crisis, one kind to rally, another to scatter. Communication here is lean, functional, precise. But humans are not content with bare utility. The same hands that point also scratch. Marks appear on stone and bone. Crosshatches, parallel lines, spirals. Some are tallies. Days of travel, kills, seasons past. Others are symbols without fixed translation. Maybe identity, maybe memory. Ochre stains rocks, shells, skin. These are not yet full language, but they are more than scratches. They are signals that outlive the moment, meaning carried forward for someone not present. Adornments speak too. A shell pierced and strung around the neck, a feather woven into hair, a bone carved into a pendant. These are not just pretty things. They signal identity, alliances, status. They say this person belongs to that band, or this band knows that coastline, or this hunter struck that kill. Ornament is information, and then there's rhythm. Long before drums, rhythm came from body and wood. Sticks tapped on hollow logs, palms smacked against thighs, voices rising and falling. Rhythm binds a group. It synchronizes steps during a march, pulses during a ritual, breath during a task. When people hum together, they move as one. When they clap together, they feel larger than their number. Rhythm is cohesion encoded in sound. Story rises from rhythm. Around the fire, words stretch beyond signals. A hunt retold is not just entertainment, it's instruction. We waited in the tall grass until the herd shifted left. A child listening is learning a hunting manual disguised as drama. A drought remembered becomes warning. The year the river vanished, we found figs where the hills split. That's a migration route passed down, disguised as tale. Stories are sticky. A dry list of instructions fades, but a tale about the hunter who fell asleep on watch and let hyenas into camp is unforgettable. Laughter and shame keep the lesson alive. Stories weave knowledge into memory, so that even after the elder dies, their voice echoes in the retelling. Meaning also travels between bands. When two groups meet, exchange isn't only stone for food, it's stories, signals, songs. A song hummed in one valley can resurface in another hundreds of kilometers away. Ideas travel as fast as goods, maybe faster. A new way of hafting a spear, a new rhythm to rally hunters, a new pigment mark, all ripple outward, carried in memory. None of this is fluff. Meaning is survival. A hand signal in silence can save a hunt. A story about a past flood can save a band from camping in the wrong valley. A shell necklace can smooth an exchange with strangers instead of triggering a fight. A rhythm can keep tired bodies moving through a long night march. And slowly, out of signals and stories, something larger emerges. Identity. The band is not just bodies gathered. It is meaning shared. They know who they are, where they've been, what dangers they overcame because stories anchor them. They aren't just surviving, they're beginning to shape culture. If you stood at the edge of a fire circle, you'd see it. A child mimics a hunter's signal for silence. A gatherer hums while grinding seeds, and others join, their work falling into rhythm. An elder draws lines in ash, telling of a long-ago journey. And children's eyes widen, not because it's a story, but because it's a map hidden inside a story. This is the spark. Not yet writing, not yet ceremony, not yet religion. but the roots of all of them growing in silence, gesture, song, mark. Survival forced the body to adapt. Now meaning forces the mind to expand. Signals keep the band alive tonight. Stories carry the band forward tomorrow. Together they make memory collective, identity durable, and survival a shared project that lasts beyond a single generation. Meaning has arrived. And once it does, it never leaves. Every choice the band makes, where to camp, when to move, what to eat, has a cost if wrong. And the land never waives the bill. Out here, mistakes are paid in blood, bone, and breath. Predators, disease, and injury are the collectors, and they do not bargain. Start with predators. Lions are not myths, they are system checks. A pride can stalk unseen for hours, then break into camp with speed that collapses thought into instinct. Hyenas probe, laugh, circle, test. They are patient accountants of weakness, waiting for one lapse in watch or one child to wander. Leopards strike without warning, fast and solitary, dragging prey into darkness. Crocodiles turn rivers into ambush corridors, invisible until jaws close. Every predator is a mirror. Did you set your thorn barrier right, keep watch rotations tight, maintain fire? If not, the mirror shatters with screams. Countermeasures exist, but none perfect. Fire is deterrent, not guarantee. Spears are defense, not dominance. Thorn fences slow, not stop. The band survives predators by stacking probabilities. Fire plus fence plus watch plus spears. One layer fails, another buys seconds. Those seconds are the margin between life and corpse, but not all threats roar. Disease whispers. Water not boiled carries parasites. Cuts in skin fester into swelling and fever. Mosquitoes sting, leaving heat and sickness days later. Food stored too long molds, poisons, cripples. There are no clinics here. No herbs for every ailment, no certainty of cure. What exists is observation and trial. A poultice of chewed leaves might draw out infection. Smoke might repel biting insects. Fasting might purge a gut of bad meat. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Knowledge is built in scars and funerals. Injury is the third collector. A twisted ankle on a hunt slows the group. A broken arm threatens starvation if not compensated. A spear wound from a failed hunt can drain life, even if the predator is long gone. Bones can be splintered with sticks, bound with sinew, rested until healing sets. But healing is slow and the band moves faster. They adapt, carrying loads for the injured, slowing migration, sharing food. It costs energy, but abandoning injured costs trust. And trust is the first tool, the one no band can survive without. Still, death is part of the rhythm. A child bitten by a cobra, a hunter gored by buffalo, an elder weakened by fever. The band mourns, but it also adjusts. Skills are redistributed. Tasks are reassigned. Knowledge is salvaged from the dying. Questions asked, maps drawn in dust. Recipes recalled in whispers. Even as the body fades, the mind's memory is harvested like marrow. Nothing wasted, not even grief. Predator encounters sometimes shape culture. A band that lost too many to crocodiles may develop strict taboos about water crossings. A group that watched hyenas steal a kill might carve signals into trees, warning future travelers. Fear becomes ritual. Ritual becomes teaching. These are not superstitions. They're survival protocols encoded in story. The cost of mistakes is not only physical, it's social. A hunter who panics and breaks formation endangers everyone. A gatherer who misidentifies a toxic route poisons the camp. A watcher who falls asleep invites predators. Punishment may be subtle, a loss of status, a redistribution of tasks, whispered blame. Or it may be harsh. Exclusion from decision-making, even banishment in extreme cases. The band cannot afford repeated liabilities. Every member is margin, but resilience shows itself here too. A mistake does not always end in death. A young hunter who fails may be mentored. A gatherer who errs may be corrected with stories, not punishment. The line is thin. Tolerate enough mistakes to teach, not so many to doom. Elders walk that line daily, balancing compassion with calculation. Death itself is handled pragmatically. Bodies cannot always be carried. Predators are drawn to them. Often the dead are left, covered lightly, sometimes marked with ochre, sometimes sung over briefly. Ritual is short but not absent. Even here meaning exists. The dead become memory, warning, story. They are not erased, only transformed into lessons for the living. What predators, disease, and injury teach is humility. No band dominates the land. No spear guarantees safety. No fire cures every sickness. Survival is always conditional, always rented, never owned. The bill is constant: vigilance, effort, discipline. Stop paying and the collectors arrive. Yet the fact that humans are still here proves something. Bands learn to minimize costs, stack defenses, adapt fast. They accepted the inevitability of loss without letting loss break the group. They turned pain into teaching, death into memory, risk into ritual. Stand with the band on a night after loss. The fire is smaller, the faces are tired. But the watch still rotates, the spears are still sharpened. Food is still shared, the band moves forward, scarred but intact. That is resilience, not invulnerability but persistence after the bill is paid. Predators, disease, injury. They trim the careless, the unlucky, the slow. But those who read the signs, share the weight, adapt the methods, those endure. And endurance is the quiet victory. The horizon doesn't burst with light. It bleeds it. Slow, grey first, then pale orange, then fire. The night's contract is complete. The band endured. They read the land, trusted one another, sharpened edges, ate enough, defended against predators, bent with weather, remembered in signals, paid the costs. Now the reward isn't triumph, it's continuity. Dawn means the system worked for one more cycle. Look at the fire. It's mostly ash now, faint red under white dust. Someone stirs it, feeds in a twig, coaxes new flame. Embers didn't die because they weren't allowed to. A child yawns, watches, learns that tending embers through the night is as critical as throwing a spear. Continuity depends on small hands copying what older hands did. Around camp, the audit begins. Hunters scan the ground. Any tracks near the thorn fence? A faint pad mark means hyenas tested but withdrew. Success. Gatherers check baskets, dig shallow caches, plan the day's forage routes. Elders rise slow, joints stiff, but minds already turning to memory. The wind has shifted. What does it mean for the herds? Each roll resumes, but dawn adds one more thing. Reflection. The band knows what worked, what failed, what must change before night falls again. Dawn is not safety. Predators hunt in morning shadows. Heat will rise, draining energy. The band cannot relax, it pivots. But dawn is symbolic. It proves the strategies of night carried weight. It proves cooperation paid off. It proves resilience held. That proof is the ember that really matters. Not in ash, but in memory. Why does their night matter to us 300,000 years later? Because we are here. Every modern breath, every city skyline, every language, every art form, all of it traces back to nights like these. If their protocols had failed, there would be no chain. If trust had fractured, no lineage. If memory had not been shared, no continuity. Dawn is not just their survival. It's our inheritance. Think about it. The way you plan for tomorrow's job. Store food in your kitchen. Lock your doors at night. Tell your children stories. That's the same architecture, scaled and dressed differently. They lit small fires. We light electric grids. They carried signals in hands and hums. We send them across satellites. They told stories to teach children where the river bends. We tell stories in books and screens. The forms changed, the functions did not. Dawn reveals continuity more than difference. There's another truth hidden in dawn. Survival was never guaranteed. It was earned over and over. Every night was a test. Every day a negotiation with land, predators, hunger, weather. That fragile balance is why meaning became necessary. Bands couldn't afford chaos. They needed cohesion. They couldn't afford forgetting. They needed story. They couldn't afford silence in crisis. They needed signals. We didn't inherit survival by accident. We inherited it because they built a culture of competence in the face of danger. Stand with them as the sun lifts fully. The fire brightens. Children chase each other, giggling, unaware of how close danger brushed them. Hunters stretch, spears in hand, preparing for another pursuit. Gatherers sling baskets, already scanning trees for fruit. Elders sit, marking routes in dust, passing memory into younger eyes. It looks ordinary, but ordinary is extraordinary here. Ordinary means alive. The footprints in dust will vanish by wind or rain, but the skills don't. They live in the next hunt, the next story, the next child's muscle memory. The band itself may dissolve one day. People age, migrate, merge with others, but the strategies endure. That's the real survival. Not bodies, but behaviors. Not names, but knowledge. The band doesn't think about us. They don't know their choices echo into skyscrapers and satellites. They know only that last night was survived, and today must be managed. But the echo is real. We live in their wake, using their template. Every decision we make, how to trust, how to share, how to adapt, carries their fingerprints. So why does their night matter? Because it shows us the core of being human is not dominance but cooperation. Not brute strength but adaptation. Not permanence but persistence. It matters because it strips away illusions of modern safety and shows what truly kept us here. Vigilance, memory, trust. The band steps into the day. Some go to water, some to forage, some to scout. The fire burns steady again. The system resets for another cycle. You watch them and you realize they didn't plan for you. They weren't thinking of future centuries. They were thinking of today, tonight, tomorrow. Yet by passing one ember to the next, they lit the path that led here. Dawn matters because it means the ember didn't die, and in that ember lives every possibility of us. So the final question is not whether they survived. They did. The question is whether we can still recognize the ember when we see it, whether we can keep it alive through our own nights of uncertainty, whether we understand deep down that the fire isn't just theirs, it's ours, still burning. The sun clears the ridge. The band moves out. The footprints fade, but the ember stays.